first years, welcome back to week 2 of your apple crumble or fruit crumble. So what we're going to do today is make the base and we're going to cook it. Alright, so please make sure if you haven't already that you've got your crumble topping ready that we made last lesson and you've taken it out of the freezer and it's defrosted. So hopefully you should all have this recipe card. Also, can you just take a moment because we are going to be using the oven today. On the back you will see that I've given you some health and safety steps of how to use an oven safely. You may want to have an adult in the room with you if this is the first time that you're using the oven, so please read through this and do be careful. So what you're going to have to do, as you heard it there, is preheat your oven. Now it's 190 degrees or gas mark prime, so get that nice and hot and ready to go. What also you're going to need is an oven proof dish. Now it can be glass, it can be whatever you've got, whatever size you've got, as long as it can go in the oven. Alright, so I'm going to use this one today. You need some apples. Now I found it really difficult to get hold of cooking apples, so if you've just got eating apples like I have, that's absolutely fine. The difference between cooking and eating apples is one, the size. Cooking apples tend to be quite large, so one might be enough. I've just got 3 small eating apples. Cooking apples can be sourer, so in the recipe it does call for some sugar. I'm going to use a very, very little amount of sugar because eating apples are much sweeter. And if you remember what I said last lesson about sugar being bad for our teeth, type 2 diabetes and obesity, so you don't have to use that. And the third thing is that apples, cooking apples tend to fall better. These might go a little bit mushy, but it's absolutely fine. It still tastes delicious. You can also add other fruits, so if you want to put some raspberries in there, blackberries. I've got some dried fruit. If you remember, I talked a little bit last lesson about fibre. Dried fruit is a really good way of getting fibre into your diet. So you can see I've got some chopped apricots that I'm going to add into my mixture, and also these are extra nice when they're cooked because they soak up all of the juice and they become nice and plump, and I much prefer them cooked than I do plain. So if you want to add any other fruit into it, then please do. So just tilt you down here, you'll need a chopping board and you can use a sharp knife. So remember about a sharp knife, okay? And make sure you've got a chopping board, and we're going to be using the claw grip, okay, which remember is like this, and also the bridge grip. So the first thing that we're going to do is apple core. All right, now I don't have apple core in my house, so we'll do it another way. So bridge, like so, flat down and cut right in the middle, okay? So you've got 2 halves of your apple. Now, you can, before you do this, if you want to peel the apple, then that's absolutely fine. If you've got a cooking apple, I would recommend that you do that. With the eating apple though, I'm gonna leave it on. The reason being is that it's got that lovely fibre into it, and it also helps it keep its structure. So if you want to peel it, that's fine. If not, I've done this previously, do wash your apples. All right, really important, you give them a good wash to make sure there's no bacteria or anything on them. So back to where we were. Apples cut in half, and then all you do is just take your knife and just cut straight down away from the seed. Okay, so straight down, and then remember, flat surface, and cut that out. So we're getting rid of the core. We don't want the core, you can put that to one side. And then what we're going to do is go back to our bridge. So flat surface, no wobble, and we want these as thin as you possibly can. All right, starting to wobble, we don't like that. Flat surface, and we can cut it the other way. So nice thin apple slices. Now what might start to happen is that the apples might start to go brown. This is known as enzymic browning, and it happens when the oxygen in the air reacts with the enzyme that is in the apple. Okay, now that enzyme is called polyphenolase, and it turns it brown. Now it doesn't look too attractive, it can make it go a little bit soggy, but it's not going to harm you, it's not the end of the world, so don't worry. There's ways we can overcome that. One of them, like we did when we made our fruit salad, is by putting them in an acid, so orange juice or lemon juice. We could also put them in water as well, or hopefully what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to work really quickly and that process won't happen. Okay, so I'm just going to core this apple again, and how many apples you use really does just depend on how big your dish is. So I'm thinking for mine, 3 eaten apples will be enough. and it would have just been one cooking apple. So have a look at the size of your desk, and what I'm doing is as I'm cutting them, I'm putting them straight into the dish so I can judge how many I need. You want it to be full of apples. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of my apples and then we'll come back together. Okay, so in the end, it only took 2 apples, and that is my apples that I'm going to be using. And then what I'm going to do is add about 50 grams of dried fruit. Now these are pre-chopped apricots. You can put raisins in here, figs, you can put some nuts, just to give it a little bit of extra fibre. So just sprinkle those in. Now, as mentioned, I'm using eaten apples, so I don't really need a lot of sugar, but I do want to create a nice sauce. So I'm going to add just 1 tablespoon, all right, all the way around. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water. Now, by adding the water, what that's going to do is just create some steam, and it's going to make a lovely sauce with all the natural sugars that are coming out, and it's going to help the apples cook a little bit better. Now, at this point, you can add some cinnamon and some mixed spice, anything that you want in here to really bring those flavours together, because they work really well with apples. Unfortunately, I'm out of them and I couldn't find any in the supermarket, but I've got loads of lovely flavours going on. And then the last step we're going to do is take our crumble topping, and we want to cover the whole of the crumble. Now, depending on how big your dish is, will depend on how much of your crumble topping that you use. I've got a little bit left. Now this is really nice. If you've got any crumble topping left, sprinkle it onto a baking tray and cook it in the oven for about 5 to 8 minutes. It becomes nice and nice and crunchy and crispy, and that's lovely over some ice cream or over some yogurt in there as well. So don't waste this. It can also go back in the freezer if you've got enough to make another crumble some other time. So that is my crumble. Just flatten it out, make sure there's nothing peeking through. Okay, and then it's going to go into the oven. Now when it goes into the oven, you must use oven gloves, okay? And we're going to pop it straight into the oven, and it's going to cook for about 30 to 35 minutes, so quite a while. So that gives you plenty of time to get the kitchen tidied, washed up, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's... So I've just taken my crumble out of the oven, and please do remember to use oven gloves. Pull out the metal tray and then get your hands in to get it out, okay? Please don't put your hands straight in, because you will burn the top of your wrists, okay? When you take it out, it's also important that you have something to put it on, so a metal pan stand or anything you don't want to burn your parents' worktop. So we can tell that it's done because the sugar has caramelised and it's started to go golden brown. And also you will see that there'll be a few little cracks in the surface as well, and that tells you that it's done. So this is ready to eat now, lovely with some custard or some ice cream, or you can leave it for later, pop it in the fridge and then reheat when you want it. You could also put it in the freezer as well. So there is your apple crumble or fruit crumble done. Hopefully now we know a little bit more about fibre, about sugar, and we've also learned the rubbing in process. Okay, thank you very much. See you next week.